I'm Martine De Maeseneer. I'm an architect. I'm also a teacher and Vice Dean Internationalization at the Faculty of Architecture, KU Leuven. This was one of our major public buildings, and it's Bronx Theatre in the center of Brussels.
I read that you had two options for locations. Why did you choose here?
Actually, we had much more options. So there were several options looked at throughout the city center of Brussels. And at the time, I had been studying in London and was there in contact with a new kind of methodology. Study about how space is structured in an urban grid, space index. And I looked in particular at Brussels, and certain locations had the potential to become a local center. And it's quite important, I think, that you insert this kind of public buildings also on the right urban location. If you integrate such kind of building, a location which has not the potential to become kind of a center, it doesn't make sense and the building won't work. So it's quite important where and how you integrate this kind of buildings.
The square in front is quite important, I think, for your building, because you have the big open window in front where you can really look into the building. So they have a visible connection, but not directly the physical connection.
Mm-hmm. Actually, a year or two before we were asked to design this theatre, I had to give a lecture in Dublin. And there you have a very marvelous theatre in Temple Bar region, center there. And it was amazing for us that like the rear of the scene, the back of the building could simply fold open, literally, onto a square. And that was quite a nice idea in relationship with this kind of location. Where we had space in front, because actually the square is something we negotiated later on when the building was built already with somebody of the city of Brussels in order to make an actual square in front instead of the roundabout where cars were always like parked all over the place. And were more an obstruction than an actual space that could function in relation with the building.
Which places in this building are for you the most interesting or the most intricate? Which places do you have the most to talk about?
Mm-hmm. For this theatre in particular, what is very specific for the building is his organizational plan, actually. The building consists of two big boxes next to each other on the same level. Around those boxes is the whole circulation circuit organized, but it's flexible. And that's where actually the main staircase, the central staircase comes in, which has like a public part and a part for internal use for the staff only. But you can change that routing through it by moving the swing door in between. And it's a very simple tool actually, but you can change the whole experience of the building with it. Like whenever there is a play, you come in from one side, but during the play they change the routing and you go out completely different way. You think I'm in another building, you know. This is not the way that how I came in. it's never experienced the same way twice, I would say. So that's like the non-linear effect, which is quite important in our work. But yeah, that's what's highly appreciated also by children. For instance, they can play hide and seek endlessly here, so that the parents can't find them because they know all the sneaky ways or shortcuts through this or through that. But you have to experience, you have to go around for it, and it's it's difficult to explain also to the eventual users at the time. It's only when it's finished to realize that you start seeing the potentials of a new layout, of a new plan for a theater, which is very different from the usual theater plans. But here, like, the foyer is like verticalized in front of the building, which makes that all the movements throughout the building are a scenery on its own. For sure, in the evenings when all the lights are on, you see the movement of people throughout 4 stories, literally, which makes the building very livable also. It's not a black box from the outside. It makes that it becomes part of the urban scene, of the urban everyday scene, which is really interesting, I think.
At the Bronx Theatre, you have a game of the architectural and the structural and the technical. How do they become so intertwined for you, and how do you develop spaces like the space we are in now?
It was a quite huge, heavy program in square meters, but the building lot was limited, and we couldn't go higher than the adjacent roof structures. So it was limited in height, so we were obliged to dig a bit into the ground, actually. From a structural point of view, and also with the limits to the budget, you start to combine things. So this is kind of acoustics, structure, and interior design, decoration at the same time. So we try to combine everything in one, so that you pay once for it, not in the most obvious and straightforward way, but in the most interesting way. What gives you in the long run the most interesting characteristics, actually. This is like a suspension structure, actually, which makes that we can hang that platform. We suspend it literally from the room, so it's hanging from the roof, and that makes that, like, the ground floor is like column free. There are no columns, there are no supports, because the floor on top of it are hanging from the top. So it's always a combination of different elements, and bringing them together, that's the task of an architect, I would say. This is the rehearsal space. It can be divided in 2, but this is like really an amazing space in relation to the square in front. You don't see any structural means. It can also be shut up. That was in the beginning. During the design process, they absolutely didn't want a completely glazed wall. But in the end, we could convince them by saying, you can completely shut it off, and then it becomes a black box, which indeed, sometimes you need this. Behind that curtain is the sneaky window from the meeting room, where, like, the artistic director can, unseen, follow and watch the rehearsals, which is really nice. This is like the main entrance door, through that door and sliding gate. You see like 1.40 meter distance in between the main boxes and the facade in front. So This together with a basement becomes the main foyer, which is like verticalized along the whole facade, but also downstairs here, which you can see, can be used as a kind of workshop spaces. The theater hall, actually you see like the side walls, the vertical walls of the main hall, they're like faceted, and this is done for acoustical reason. It's maybe difficult to see, but you see it downstairs, and the scene is also not parallel. It's like a trapezium that goes, and it's quite important in acoustics. You see, it's all very hard material, but nevertheless, there is a good acoustics. Upstairs, there is a big window with an outside terrace, and that's actually linked with the quarters of the actors, the loges, which are also behind that curtain. And from that loges, you can also literally see as a window in the big hall. This is also a tribune, which can all be pushed in and up till here, and then we set the railing here, and then it's completely flat hall actually. So then much more people can go standing, and it can be used for completely different functions. Also the dimensions of the whole scene, it's like the standard dimension of dance plays, theater pieces and so on. So they can host like all mainstream plays, dance performances whatsoever throughout Europe and abroad. And there, in the corner, there is a terrace where that can be this opening up to the city around, and actors can make use of that kind of private outdoor space. So it's now you don't see, but also from there it's accessible from the main staircase. There are windows and a door which can be opened up, and then they can rehearse with natural daylight actually. So that's the other option.